we're going to be talking about Greninja and all the Greninjas. Well, two Greninjas, because the new set, Ninja Spinner, is coming out in Japanese in March. And honestly, I'm kind of excited for it. I saw the initial list with only two secret rares, of which I think most of you guys have already seen it, and it's kind of low-key good. Like, Taurus looks badass, especially if you're collecting 151, like the original Gen 1 Pokemons. Hey, we got a Taurus that is not a regional variant. That's cool. But outside from that, I mean, I did it with perfect order so I can see the vibes of that set, especially as perfect order is going to come out in the English side here in the United States. I want to see if it's worth investing, buying some seal stuff and having it in my collection. As for the Japanese side, I always love ripping it, and we ended up pulling up the chase card. So maybe we can do the same thing with Ninja Spinner, and if we can't, that's fine. But we will be getting another Mega, or we will be getting Mega Greninja in Ninja Spinner. So if that card pops off, you can expect that the following Greninjas are going to pop off as well. So we're going to be talking about the two other ones that came out in Scarlet and Violet, and those are going to be the Greninja EX, the Shrouded Fable promo, and then the Twilight Masquerade, the chase card of that set. The card that a lot of people claim that started this crazy Pokemon bull run that we're still going for a year and a half. So a couple things that we'll be talking about, like always, is going to be the raw value, the PSA 9 value, the PSA 10 value, the population, the gem rate, and a couple things about it. So whenever we're at the convention, Chris and I were walking around, and every single table had the Shrouded Fable Greninja EX. And it makes sense because there's going to be a lot more copies of that card in the wild. Even though Shrouded Fable is a limited set, there's not a lot about it. We never heard it. There was never announced, like a reprint was never announced. So this card is extremely popular. Yet there was a lot of copies of this card in every single table that you see. And the raw card will go somewhere around $70. Right? So let's go ahead and start talking about this card. And at the end. Right? So Shrouded Fable, this one. The raw card or the PSA 9 card, if you can't buy cards locally, they'll run you for around $70. The 10 price will go for around $370, both in PSA or tag. Now, whenever we're talking about the population in PSA, there has been a total of 16,000 cards graded in a 9. Whenever we're talking about the PSA 10 population, we got 13K. So whenever we look at the gem rate for PSA, this card right here has 41% chance of coming, or it has a 41% chance if you have a copy and you grade it with PSA that it's going to come back as a 10, which honestly, to me, it feels like that's a little high considering that it is a promo card for a specialty set. Promo cards are notoriously bad at packaging, so I expect that number to be a little bit more lower. But nonetheless, there's around, you get a 41% gem rate to get this card in a 10. Now, whenever you grade it with tag, this is where the numbers are completely different, or a little bit more different. For the total amount of cards that have been graded through tag, we are looking at around 840 cards. Now, for tag 10s of this set card, there's around 269 at the moment, with only 2 pristine 10s, giving this card a 32% chance of getting a 10 or higher. So 32% chance with me sounds about right whenever we're talking about condition of a 10. It is a promo card. It comes in a box. Boxes like that, or promo cards in boxes, are usually not packaged well, so you expect a lot more edge damage. Centering, you can kind of pick and choose the centering, especially if you're buying a box, but you can never really look at the edges. So if you see this card out there in the wild for around $70, honestly, I would probably say it is probably a good buy before the Greninja hype really takes off. But, you know, $70, I'm not gonna lie, it is a little rich for my taste, and this is probably one of the most expensive raw cards that I have bought at the moment. But it is a card that I want to add it to my collection. But honestly, I was just kind of an idiot for not adding it earlier, and now I gotta pay the premium of cards aging well, especially promo cards. So once again, PSA, you'll have a 41% chance to get a 10 if you send it to grading. With tag, you have a 32% chance of it coming back as a 10 or higher in a pristine 10. The pristine 10s, though, you got less than 1% chance. So if you have a solid copy, just be aware. So whenever we talk about the Twilight Masquerade Greninja, now the raw card of that Greninja, we're talking about $270 raw or PSA 9 price. So it's already $200 more expensive than the Shrouded Fable version. Whenever we're looking at 10 prices, $800 for 10s, right? $800 for either a tag or a PSA 10. Now, how many copies have been graded through PSA? Well, if you're lucky or not lucky, but there's been 8,000 of those cards coming back as a PSA 9. And then on a PSA 10 level, there is 9,000. So even then, this card has more population of a 10. Sorry, not this card. The Twilight Masquerade Greninja has a better chance of coming back to you as a 10 than as a 9. It is a $270 card that can go into an $800 card. Whenever we look at tag, there's been less copies of this card being graded. So the card has been graded a total of 464 times. Whenever we're looking at the tag 10 population, there's only 200 copies of this card, and there are 0 pristine 10s. So the gem rate, if you send that card to grade through tag, you have a 48% chance of getting back as a 10. Now, honestly, that's kind of rare, considering it's kind of rare that there's only 200 copies of that card in a tag 10. But there's I see a potential move where you guys could make some money or add a extremely good card to your collection if you have a solid PSA 9. And remember, whenever we're talking about PSA 9s, we're talking about the centering. We're talking about the corners and the edges. We're looking for any kind of print lines, impact lines, anything. But if you have a solid copy and you decide to cross-grade it with tag, well, you have a 48% chance of that card coming back to you as a 10 with data. That is still higher than PSA and then PSA's gem rate. So that leads me to believe that Twilight Masquerade has some great quality control. If your chase card has over a 40% gem rate in 2 different companies. Regardless, remember that you will pay an upcharge with PSA, but with tag, you won't pay an upcharge, so more of the profit you can keep for yourself, right? Now, whenever we're talking about these cards and where these cards are going to head into the future, one of the things that I always found funny is that people, whenever they're collecting Scarlet and Violet, or whenever Scarlet and Violet was in our face, the one thing that a lot of people would complain is that no one really liked the crowns, the Terra crowns. However, the Twilight Masquerade Greninja has a crown, and it's kind of attributed as starting the bull run, right? But whenever we're looking at the PSA 10 price, the price ain't that high. It's not super high, especially for the Pokemon that it is. So maybe there is some justification there, but sometimes I always feel like that's like a whole bunch of smokes, seeing how now Ascended Heroes has a Terra Crown Pikachu, which we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we also have all the evolutions with the crowns who happen to be popular. The Surging Sparks Pikachu with the crown, popular, right? And even some of the other SARs of Scarlet and Violet that have crowns, like a Hydreigon or Cerulege, or even Charizard, Obsidian Flames Charizard. They're popular, right? They're popular. So I don't believe that argument. But seeing this number of PSA 10s, just Twilight Masquerade was really short printed, or maybe it wasn't really printed as much, and a lot of people don't want to collect Twilight Masquerade, and it makes sense because Twilight Masquerade is not really too much of a strong set. So let's go ahead and break down these two cards and which one I think has better, more upside potential to make a little bit more money on your side, or add value to your collection, right? So what set do they belong on? Well, these cards belong to Shrouded Fable and Twilight Masquerade. Going with Twilight Masquerade, it is not a super popular set. The art on it is not necessarily strong. I mean, outside from the Greninja, what else are you really getting? What else are you really chasing? I know some people like Blood Moon Ursaluna, but you also get a Blood Moon Ursaluna in Prismatic Evolutions. That's probably going to be a little bit more rarer, maybe, right? We also get Chansey though, so there's a lot of people who go for Twilight Masquerade's Chansey just so they can keep adding those Gen 1 Pokemon in their collection, because there's always money to be made with Gen 1. And there's the reason, like always, the reason why you can make money on those Gen 1 Pokemon is because collectors like myself want to collect every single Gen 1 Pokemon that you possibly can, right? So, but Twilight Masquerade really doesn't have anything to offer. But whenever you look at Shrouded Fable, guess what? It is equally as bad or even worse of a set. However, even if they decided to reprint Shrouded Fable, you cannot pull this Greninja out of the regular pools because it's not part of the box. It's a promo card independently. So, Twilight Masquerade could get a reprint. So then we will have more of that Greninja kind of hitting the market. Shrouded Fable could get reprinted, right? And even if it did, you're not getting this bad boy. Like, that is it. This bad boy is also in English. So I feel like that really helps collectors, even in the Japanese sites, that can't get this card in English. Sometimes there's a higher text on that. Sometimes there isn't. Because here's the thing, guys. Here in the Western Hemisphere, we think that English Pokemon dominates. And not necessarily. Some of the best exclusive cards that get damaged by PSA and don't get fully refunded are Japanese promos, So, but that's something that could be used on this card. It is only an English promo card only, right? But not with the Twilight Masquerade. Now, my second question is this Pokemon strong enough to age well with time? And I would argue and say yes. Greninja is obviously a starter Pokemon, kind of edgy, probably is kind of released during Naruto's hype, right? This guy's throwing a water shuriken. This to me gives me nothing but like Naruto, however you guys want to say it, vibes, right? Probably because that's when it came out, or this card might have been, or that Pokemon came out during Naruto's run. So I feel like a lot more collectors going like aging might appreciate this card, but they'll appreciate this Pokemon kit. It is a fan favorite Pokemon. Now, fan favorite enough that it gets a Mega Evolution. So overall, Greninja cards, even if it's the Gold Star, there should be cards that you guys are writing for your collection because they will age well. And this Greninja's art, fantastic. It doesn't have a crown, but it gives you ninja vibes. Like this one, solid. So now I want to go back to the sets. Whenever we're talking about what's gonna rival, like, do you guys think, because this is the way I'm thinking, the Greninja from Twilight Masquerade is a chase card of that set? Would you say that card, it is within the top 10 of the Scarlet and Violet era? And we're talking about chase cards, even promotional cards. I would argue and say, no, it's not in the top 10. Maybe value-wise, but whenever it comes to like fan favorites, I think there's other Pokemon cards that are from the mainline sets and promotional cards that are going to do better than the Twilight Masquerade. Now, it probably has population as the only thing that's really going to help it go up in value. But I would argue and say that Shrouded Fable probably has the same thing. Because Shrouded Fable, as I said, was a horrible set that the best chase card at the moment right now is Duskull, which is insane. But I can kind of see it too. And if you guys don't know, Duskull from Shrouded Fable and the Pikachu with the Terra Crown from Ascended Heroes are connected because it's all done by the same illustrator. The illustrator, I forget his name, I'm sorry, has only done 4 full arts or full illustration cards at the moment. That is going to be the pink Pikachu with the Terra Crown from Ascended Heroes, and it's going to be the Duskull Evolution line in Shrouded Fable. Now, why does this illustrator matter? Well, it matters because he was a Pokemon designer. He actually designed Pokemons, and it was part of the Pokemon game Sword and Shield, a creative designer. So the fact that he went from like maybe designing some Pokemons to designing a game to now those cards are his like creations, and the Duskull Evolution line is a, you know, it's an evolution line, a matching evolution line. Like, that's cool. Like, honestly, it is cool. It is so cool. I hate that I'm about to do this. That's so bad. I'm probably gonna have to cut and edit this out. I think if you're a collector, you guys should collect those cards. Personally, like I said, I like to collect in Japanese, and you know, they came across me at a very cheap price, cheaper than the raw cards, the Japanese raw cards. So I couldn't say no. At least I know they're real. And honestly, I'm gonna run an experiment where I crack some 8.5s and send them to tag, because Tyranitar was an 8.5 and it came back as a 10. But anyways, yeah, we have an illustrator who was coming back into the hobby, or who was moved around in the Pokemon hobby, but has been heavily involved from designing Pokemon, designing games, to now designing Pokemon cards. I mean, like, that's kind of a cool collecting thing. So anyways, that is the chase card of Shrouded Fable. But if this Greninja EX was part of Shrouded Fable as the regular pull card, part of its regular mainline set, then I can probably guarantee you that this 100% would be the chase card of that set. And then I can guarantee you that that card would probably be around $200 or $300 raw. The price would probably be the same thing as the one from Twilight Masquerade. Convinced 100%. The amount of people that love this card over the Terra Crown Greninja is not even close. Now, does the population matter? Honestly, population kind of doesn't matter. I'm sorry, I can say this, I believe this, the population doesn't matter right now in the modern age, just because everything is getting printed like crazy and everything is graded like crazy. If we're looking at PSA's numbers, right, there's 13,000 in a 10, there's 16,000 in a 9 for this Greninja. So we know bare minimum there's like around a 25,000 copies of this card, but it's still a very popular card. In the Twilight Masquerade, we have 9,000 in a 10, 8,000 in a 9, and then so you're looking at around 16,000 of that Pokemon card. People are grading it, but they're still fetching over hundreds of dollars. And the Twilight Masquerade one might end up getting over $1,000. But if population doesn't matter, if there's a high amount of these cards available, then why wouldn't you want to grow with PSA? Why wouldn't you want to go with tag and get the best copy of that card that you can possibly can? You know, whether if you're a collector or you're after value, you would want the best copy that you can possibly get, closer to the 1,000 point, or even possibly the 1,000 point, you know, so you can have an epic piece in your collection. Now, I understand that you have a 32% chance of getting this card in a 10, because, well, yeah, it's a promo card, bad packaging, you know. So 32,000, you have a 32% chance to get that card in a 10, while the Twilight Masquerade one, you have a 48% chance. You know, that is still higher than PSA's chance. So you can easily, like, if you want to make a money move, your money move is right there. PSA 9s, 2 tag 10s, arbitrage, right? You might possibly get a 10 and you can go up, you know, like $600. more if you already have a copy yourself, right? So maybe consider going grading that Twilight Masquerade and going to tag. But if there's so many copies of a certain card like this one, then you want to have the best copy for your collection. I mean, outside from that, like, you know, I'm really sorry for not having Mr. James Turner cards ready, easily and accessible. I'm sorry about that, but that's the way that I'm seeing with the Greninja. So Greninja is probably going to be a good Pokemon that you guys can collect, and it's going to go up on value. You know, it is a fantastic card to grade because it is a very popular Pokemon. And whenever we're talking about, like, so you have popularity. Now, if we're talking about population, we have one of the only English exclusive promos. You know, that is super cool. And then Twilight Masquerade also is a very limited set that no one really likes. So as a collector piece, is a must add. If you're looking to resell to make some money, maybe lean to the Twilight Masquerade one, but overall Greninja looks like it's going to be a fantastic Pokemon. All the cards that we have gotten in Scarlet and Violet and now in the Mega Evolution line is going to be good. And plus, I think the Mega Evolution, like Chaos Rising or Ninja Spinner, might actually end up being a very good set. I mean, right now, like, we haven't gotten the full release of the EX cards, but right now I would say Ascended Heroes #1, followed by, like, honestly, people really sleeping on Mega Evolution base. So I say Mega Evolution is probably the second best set, regardless, the second best. And then because after that, like, Phantasmal Flames is so small and it gets carried only by the Charizard. And then the Perfect Order's chase card is weak in Zygarde Z, but the rest of the cards are relatively good, right? So Chaos Rising looks to have a very good fan favorite Pokemon as its chase card, and the other cards that we're going to be getting illustration rares and SARs, and they're kind of up there. So it's going to be an interesting set, but yeah, but Greninja is definitely a great piece to add, and it's going to go up on price. Outside from that, I really hope that you guys have a fantastic day. Next time.